I just think it's interesting to see TVA go from at risk in the 07, 08 time frame of what are we going to do, and now we've ended up with a forecast that's putting us 27 max and getting it down to whatever the end of that is.
Roughly 21 billion.
That's just so big that I just can't. It's, for me, thank you.
I think this goes directly to the point that Director Maharan was making when the analogy to the authority to issue up to $4 billion worth of power bonds, and we only issue power bonds with prior notification to the Finance Committee. In this case, the $4 billion, $3 billion of that is just a request to term out short-term debt or maturing debt that we have, so it's not incremental debt. And then approximately $1 billion of new debt, which is associated with, as Bill said, this the investment in nuclear that's going on. So overall, we're asking for a $4 billion ability to issue power bonds, and we would expect to end fiscal year 14 with $25.9 billion worth of statutory debt. And so I mentioned a bit about the, one of the risks that we bear in this plan is obviously the weather that we've seen certainly played out over the last 2 years. Commodity prices and the volatility of that, we do issue fixed price purchase contracts. From a operating cash flow perspective, so you can see about roughly $2 billion of operating cash flow and $3 billion of investing. We anticipate ending fiscal year 14 with $1.2 billion worth of cash. And then the recommendation is that you would approve this budget, which includes $10.5 billion of aggregate revenue, the operating expenses and capital spending included within that, the purchase power and the fuel and purchase power plan, which is our ability to execute contracts underneath that, the rate actions, which includes an extension. We had an environmental rate rider that had lasted for 10 years and it's set to expire at the end of this fiscal year. And so we're asking for an extension of that for 5 years, and that's included in this plan as well. And then an effective retail rate increase of 1.5% is included in those revenues that I showed you. And then lastly, for the authorization on the financial shelf to be able to issue up to $4 billion of power bonds.
Board. Today I have before you for your consideration authorization of a management recommendation to enter into 2 or more contracts in order to support our hydro modernization program. And during my remarks, I'll spend just a little time talking about this program. It's something that we started about 2 decades ago, and these contracts will support continuation of those. One of the principal attributes of going back and seeking new contracts is we have found ourselves in a position where Voith Hydro is essentially the only current supplier that we have under contract that can provide these services. And in the interest of the Tennessee Valley Authority, we have started actions to go back and essentially 5 additional years in order to support the ongoing refurbishment efforts. I mentioned our contracting strategy, and I won't spend any more time on this slide. Our contracts would allow for a variety of means upon which to base the work that we are getting done, fixed price, time and material contracts. That kind of flexibility allows us to most completely leverage the advantages of the specific suppliers that we'll be doing business with. And Director Maharan, I'll just close again with reiteration of our recommendation for approval.
We're requesting a cap for these contracts of $400 million for transmission construction. And like CHIPS contracts, this establishes a preferred supplier network which we would use for both construction and for emergency, but it does not guarantee work. We will award the work based on performance, and there's no guarantee to the work that's there. And we'll use these folks for both construction as well as emergency situations. So with that, I submit to you our recommendation for approval of the transmission supplier contracts.
alternative rates for those customers with the ability to produce a product in multiple locations. And, you know, industry plays a pretty prominent role here in the Valley. It's the engine that drives our economy. There are more than 10,000 manufacturing companies based in the Valley alone, and those companies are responsible for more than 500,000 jobs in the region. Those jobs, in turn, generate more than $32 billion in direct wages for the people who live here. So we want to be part of the success of the companies who call the Valley home or who are willing to locate here. And the key to doing this is to be a strong energy partner that offers affordable and competitive finalized. And it'll be important for this longer-term structure to be sustainable and adequately meet the needs of both customers and TVA. The first program we're recommending is the Valley Commitment Program, which is a voluntary initiative that provides a credit to industrial and manufacturing customers who make an ongoing commitment to the Valley. Specifically, they agreed to not give a service termination notice through September 30th, 2015. This program, which is aimed at the larger customers, would be available to participants beginning October 2013 with board approval. And it's set as a 2-year program. It can be extended at my discretion with consultation with the board. The second program is a new rate schedule that targets smaller manufacturers with peak usage of less than 5 megawatts. This customer group is served almost exclusively by our local power company customers. This program gives smaller manufacturers an alternative rate when they move energy usage outside of peak demand periods. Savings increase the more a customer operates outside these high demand periods. This class of customers...
Come on, Pete, if you will. If you're against it, go back.
I think Bill said it very well, so I'll try to be brief. Mr. Chairman and members of the board.
The amendments for your consideration today are behind tab 17 in your notebooks and will update the existing policy to reflect the current organizational structure and reflect both NRC guidance and industry standards. We believe it's important to maintain clarity of roles and responsibilities, and these proposed changes support that objective. Therefore, the committee recommends the proposed amendments to TVA's commitment to nuclear safety power, and I move for approval.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. All of y'all got that. They're all highlighted in 17. Any questions about that? All in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that includes the report of the
critical issues in the nuclear program, but for obvious reasons, the primary responsibility for oversight has been with the committee. And I just want to point out that in the time, especially since Bill Johnson has been here, we've made a real effort to brief the full board on critical issues. This is an interest that Barbara has expressed several times in the past year, and with Bill, with Chip and Mike, we've had some more consistent, more thorough briefings on the status of our nuclear program, and I've really appreciated this, and I think it's really helped the board as a body meet its responsibility for this absolutely critical aspect of our operation.
Including last night our safety review board.
Good governance practice and would capture in the charter the committee's commitment to independence when obtaining advice regarding compensation. The factors we propose to include do not require the selection of any particular consultant, but they require the committee to review the consultant's independence from management and TVA before making the selection. That is the People and Performance Committee. The committee has reviewed these proposed amendments. They're found behind tab 21 in your books, and the committee recommends their approval.
TVA. We received updates on current audits and investigations. Among those reports was one that was requested in response to allegations of conflict of interest by Board Chairman Bill Sansom. The investigation found the allegations were unfounded. The IG reports no issues of misconduct under either conflict of interest laws or TVA policies.
As we're seeing in the 14 budget are reduced, and the obligation of us is to be more efficient and more effective and to live within those means. And then net income, which has certainly been stressed as a priority for the board, in that this demonstrates that we will be meeting our long-term obligations and that the generation of net income would be used to extinguish the debt that's been shown in the previous financial plans that I mentioned, directly in line with that plan. And then total financing obligations, where we'd see the manifestation of that overall financing plan that we had discussed. Then jobs created and retained in the valley.